You are the Veda. Everyone, every human being born on earth with this physiology is truly a living, breathing Veda in a physical form.
Physiology requires energy. And through the energy only, human functions occur. The time has come that this sort of a spiritual knowledge has to be applied for the human Agni.
Our body is very perfect. If we maintain the body perfectly, that means there is no flaws in that body. And the same thing happens with the Vedic scriptures. It's absolute structure is there, and all you have to do is understand what that is and how the physiology works.
जितने भी हमारे सारी संस्कृति हैं ये सबको महर्षि जी पूरे विश्व में लेकर गए. He was a great rishi. It's like Patanjali, Sushruta, and our Charak.
The way this verse expands is exactly the way when you and I, there is a single fertilized egg cell, right? And it starts to multiply. The single cell becomes 2, that becomes 4, that becomes 8. And there are day-by-day progressions that Dr. Tony Nader has listed. And if you curiously study the metrical basis of the Veda, of the first shloka, 2, 4, 8, it's going into 8, 8, 8. That is exactly the thing. The mathematical basis of the Veda.
The Vedas are not just scriptures. They are the blueprints of life itself. The rhythm of the cosmos resonates within us, and the wisdom of Ayurveda helps us attune to this internal melody. Distinguished guests, respected scholars, and dear friends, it is with immense joy that we commence this special event, the book launch of Human Physiology, Expression of Veda and the Vedic Literature, and Ramayana in Human Physiology by Dr. Nader. Let us welcome Dr. Nader with a heartfelt round of applause.
Namaste. It's a great honor to be with all of you. Major General Bakshi, Dr. Varma ji, Sri Ajay Prakash ji, honored guests, Motilal representatives, a great joy to be with you, and thank you for publishing the book. It's Maharishi Mahesh Yogi who has this vision that we are the Veda not only as a nice philosophical idea or an inspiration, but all our structure of our body, structure of our mind, the logic of our thinking is all based on Veda. Because Maharishi didn't see Veda as some philosophy or some nice literature or some poetry or some kind of teaching on the surface level. He saw it as actually the laws of nature and how they manifest. The laws of nature, when we think maybe gravity, electromagnetism, and all these are part of the laws of nature. But the laws of nature are also what manages our life. If we do something, there is a response to that. How this response is calculated, how does it happen? It's because there are laws, and those laws create a response according to the action. So every action has a reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. Who is managing that? It's automatic. It's happening because there are laws. If you drop the pen, it will fall with a certain speed and a certain trajectory because there is the law of gravity and the laws of forces and the law of attraction. So life is also filled of laws, and they are very sophisticated laws. And Veda is all these laws. But when you read the book, you try to understand from the meaning what is the law, and maybe you don't get the whole picture. So Maharishi's vision is that the laws emerge first as vibration. And this is supported by modern science, which says that there is a field, which we call the unified field, that vibrates and then appears as different waves, electromagnetic, strong forces, weak forces, gravitational forces, and all these reverberations collapse into particles that become atoms and molecules and then the surface universe. But that field is a field of consciousness. And when it vibrates, it creates these reverberations. It's like an ocean, which when it vibrates, it creates the waves. And if you can see the wave, you just say, this is the wave, this is how it is, this is how many waves are there, and you can express them. So Veda is literally just the experience of those waves of the manifestation of the ocean of consciousness, the ocean of being. So the Rishis of ancient times that were enlightened, they transcended, which means they went beyond the surface level of the appearance on the sensory level. They went inside themselves and they discovered this ocean of consciousness, became familiar with it on the level of their awareness, and now they are able to see the reverberations. So they chanted those reverberations, and therefore Veda is a direct expression of how the laws of nature interact with each other and manifest on the surface. And therefore Maharishi said that all of Vishva, the universe, all of Sharir, the body, all the Shrutis, all the sounds, they are just expressions of the Veda in different layers, different forms, different manifestations. So how can this be? What it is? Maharishi has seen that, and he had said it must be also that we as human beings, because we are able to reach moksha, we are able to reach enlightenment, we are able to experience totality, it must be that our system has all the mechanics and all the requirement for it to experience those values. And so when he looked at the Veda and he saw that it says Vedoham, I am the Veda, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that totality, that wholeness, he didn't take it just as a nice inspiration so you can feel good about yourself. He said, literally, you are that. And so he asked me to research that and see how actually our body has within it the Veda. So when he asked me to do that, the first question I told him, should I start studying Sanskrit and start reading the Veda and understanding what the Veda does? He said, no need for that. So that was already a good shortcut. He said, all you need to do is to look at the structure and the function of the Veda. So what's the function of the Veda? He had already organized it in a perfect structure which has 40 different aspects of the Veda. Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakaran, the whole 40 aspects of the Veda. And he had already shown clearly what each of these Vedic parts do, what is their function. And then what is the structure of the Veda? I asked, what do you mean, the structure of the Veda? He said, very simple. Look at, for example, Rig Veda and see how many lines are there. So they call them richas. And in each richa, how many padas, which are subdivisions of those lines. And in each pada, how many syllables there are, aksharas. And then see how they assemble themselves into suktas, and how many suktas there are. And that's all. That's the structure. And he said, because natural law expresses itself in such a systematic way, its structure must also reflect its function. And so what does it mean, structure and function? You know, if you want a plane to fly, it has to have a certain, wings. It has to have certain structure. If you put a car and you can accelerate it, it will never fly because its structure is not able to perform the function. So in order to perform a function, you have to have a certain structure. So if you want to be able to hear, there has to be a tympanum, there has to be a nerve, that has to be vibration that are going from the ear to the different nerves. They have to create certain sequence. So the structure defines the function, and in order to fulfill a function, you need a specific structure. So that was the guiding light that started to look into actually what is it that in the Veda can become our structure and function. And that's how it was found after years of work under Maharishi's guidance, many beautiful days and nights. Sometimes I spent 16 hours with him working on it. As everyone knows who has known Maharishi, and they're laughing because they also spend long days, sometimes 18 hours, non-stop, because Maharishi would kind of be with somebody for 16 hours, and you are kind of starting to wake up or dream, or you don't know in which state you are except the state of bliss because you are with him. Then you go to rest and somebody else comes and continues with Maharishi. So this was really an amazing experience for me, but it led to the discovery I want to share with you. Now, if you want to really understand the full values of this discovery and its relationship and its meaning, you can read the book that the Motilal Publishing is honoring us with publishing it, and I hope we'll make it available so that people understand that Veda is not just some philosophy, but it's a very real blueprint of creation. Blueprint means, when you want to build a building, the architect draws a design, and that design has a structure, and it defines certain functions of different aspects of the book, of the architectural design. And then you build the building according to the architectural design. So Veda is the architectural design that has become our human physiology. So if you know why your brain has 4 lobes and why your thalamus has 16 parts and why your heart is motivated or conducted this way or that way, it's because the Veda is like that. Now, that extended not only on the physical superficial structure or surface structure of organs, but also when you look how the cells are made and their constituents, and you look even how the DNA is made and its constituents, you find actual correlation with the structure and function of the Veda. So now I'm going to just take some examples to move on. And also I will mention that the Devatas are also in our human physiology. I know that one of our dear bloggers here and influencers on an Indian reality has used one of my findings about Ganesh, and he has kind of popularized that. And so he was really something that became viral, and that was about how Ganesh in our physiology. So let's go through some of these points and see how it works. So here we have, I point on this side, this is the book Human Physiology that is being now made available. This is how we can see what I mentioned. There is an ocean, and then as we go deeper, physics has found that there is a unified field, which we call the bottom of the ocean, that actually manifest as different molecules that become organs and organ systems, a human individual and society. And this shows that transcendental meditation that Maharishi has taught allows us actually to go to that deep state and experience the field. So the Rishis were established in that field, and they actually not only were established there, but they actually were able to see, experience the reverberations that lead to the surface value. So, as I said, in the cell, in the DNA, in the human physiology, it's all part of the Veda, and there are 3 basic constituents of any experience: the knower, the knowing, and the known. And in the Veda, this is described as the Rishi, the Chandas, or the Devata. We said that there is reverberation. Reverberation means a certain wave and certain structure of waves, and that's what Chandas is. And the Devata is that which connects the seer, the knower, with the object of knowledge. So whenever you know something, it means there is a knower, and that knower is knowing something. That's the object of knowledge. And there is a connection, a dynamism, a dynamic process that connects the knower to the object of knowledge. And when you read the Veda, already the first thing you see when you read, for example, Rig Veda, which is the holistic value, the first thing they tell you is who is the knower, what is the process of knowing, and what is the chandas. So Rishi, Devata, chandas. So when you read the Veda, you say Rishi is Mathu chandas, Devata is Agni maybe, and the chandas is Anushtup. So you know who is the knower, the process of knowing, and the known. Now, this first aspect of the knowledge is Rig Veda. Rig Veda has 192 structures and sutras that have been clearly defined by Maharishi in terms of how they evolve. And, we see how they are divided into richas, how the richas are divided into padas. And this is reflected perfectly in the entire nervous system and the entire body, because Rig Veda is holistic and it takes everything into consideration. Now, these are the 40 aspects of the Veda. Again, you have heard some of them, Upanishad, Aranyak, Brahmana, Itihas, Puran, Smriti, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Karma, Mimamsa, Vedanta, etc. And each has a function and each has a structure. And so this explains the gap and how it works. I'm going to move on. Maybe if you have any interest in a specific part, we can discuss it in greater detail. But for example, here starts something interesting. The first richa of Rig Veda has 3 padas, so 3 divisions. And each of these divisions has 8 syllables. And so you have the first richa starts like this: Agni mile purohitam yagyasya devam ritvijam hotaram ratnathatamam. I'm not going to chant all the Veda of it. And so the first pada, which means the first part of this line of richa, Maharishi says this is the Rishi value. And the Rishi is the knower. And the second part is the process of knowing, which he defined as Devata. And the third part is Chandas, which defines the structure of Chandas. In our physiology, we have a reception, we have sensory systems, which means the system that allows us to know. We have processing system in our brain. I'm glad I have the support of a great neurologist here with us. And then we have the output. The output is what we say or what we do. So there is outward looking, inward looking, and processing in the middle. So when we look at how many steps it takes to go from the ear to the nervous system, which is the receiving part, there are 8 steps, exactly like the 8 first syllables of the first pada. And like that, we keep looking and we find that there are exact correlations at all levels. Of course, it's not the time to allow us to go through all of them, but just to give you a feeling, this is how we actually can map every sukta and every richa of the Rig Veda in our human nervous system. And that looks at it in greater details, because Maharishi's study and examination of the Veda led to what he called the Apaurushaya Bhashya, which means the commentary that is not created, because Veda is Nitya Apaurushaya. It's not created, it is eternal, it's the laws of nature, and he explains how actually Veda comments on itself. And that is the basis of the finding that we have done. So here, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, in great detail, available in our human nervous system. And like that, the Vedangas, Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakara, Niruk, Chand, Jyotish, they are there. I take a couple of examples. Here, Vyakaran is the expanding part. It happens to correspond to our thalamus, which is a structure here. This is the brain cut in the middle. The hypothalamus is about here. And the divisions of Vyakaran are exactly the same as the divisions of our hypothalamus, because the function corresponds in one-to-one way. Chand in general, this is what talks about the different systems. The whole physiology is there, and the 8 chapters of Chand are in our physiology. And that goes beyond just our physiology, because if you look at the planets, here is another level. The planets, Surya and Chandra and Mangal and Guru and all of that, they have different functions and different positions. And it so happens, this is expected, that in the middle of our brain, there are what we call basal ganglia. And in the middle of the basal ganglia, there is a structure here, it's called the thalamus, to which all the basal ganglia correspond. And then when you look, you find that the exact same relationship and function of those parts in the brain correspond to whatever Jyotish has mentioned to be the functions of those planets in the solar system. So Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, as is the atom, is the universe, as is the universe, so we are. And so these are actually part and parcel of our physiology. We are one with the universe. It's not unexpected, because the laws of nature that construct us depend also on the laws of nature that construct the outer world and outer system in which we are, in this case, in the solar system. And so even by function, they are the same. This is how we can see. This is a more specific, like it shows Surya and it shows the different parts. And even Rahu and Ketu are there. There is this caudate nucleus which has a head and a tail. It's like Rahu is the head and Ketu is the tail. So they actually even have similar structure and similar relationships. So Vedoham is a real thing. You are the Veda. Everyone, every human being born on earth with this physiology is truly a living, breathing Veda in a physical form. This is going deeper into some of the Jyotish aspects, such as the Rashis, the Nakshatras, the Bhavas, and that covers the Vedangas. Now the Upangas also are there. For example, let's take yoga, because yoga is very popular these days. But for us, for the poor, yoga means just these exercises. But the Patanjali Yoga Sutras is about creating unity, creating oneness, creating wholeness between mind and body, individual and the environment. And so yoga is unifying. That's what yoga means, how to unify. In our nervous system, when all the information comes through our nervous system and goes to our brain, there are structures that interconnect the different parts so that they are unified. We call them the association fibers. And when we look at the divisions of the brain, we find that it is divided into 4 lobes, and each lobe has a number of subdivisions, these salsae, which have specific functions. And the book of yoga has also 4 chapters. So again, 4 chapters in the book of yoga, 4 parts in the part of the brain that correspond one-to-one, even in their subdivisions, to the sutras that are in the book of yoga. So here we go. It shows how it is in the DNA and how it is in the cell. And, I'll leave you to read the book so you can. If I tell you everything, you won't buy the book. Motilal will not be happy with me. No, they want to spread the knowledge, but it's good to have it and integrated in our consciousness. So everything is there. You can see the nakshatras, and they correspond in structure even inside the cell of our body. So now we go to other aspects that are described in the Veda. For example, the Shivaling. Shivaling is actually wholeness, it's fullness, it's the expression of the totality of Shiva. It has been explained and interpreted in different ways, but the real meaning is that reality. And if you look here at the entire brain, you find that it has that shape which compares to that, and the whole brain has within it all the three devatas, as it says that the Shiva Ling represents the power of the three Devi, of the three values of Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, and it's a wholeness that creates a fullness, and that is why we have this kind of resemblance here, and that is Shiva. Now, maybe those who have seen that blog by about Ganeshji, we see that here is Ganesh, and here is this part of the nervous system which we call the brain stem and the cerebellum. And you're comparing Ganesh to this part of the brain. This is the brain looked at from the bottom, and this is no drawing. This is actually how it looks. Just this line is highlighting so that one can see. And then you can see here the face of Ganesh, the eyes of Ganesh, the ears of Ganesh, the trunk of Ganesh. They're all in our physiology. And the function of Ganesh, which is all that we start with Ganesh. All that we, remover of obstacle, producer of, wholeness. And that is what this part of the brain does. It is the gateway to the brain. Nothing happens in your physiology or your experience that doesn't go through Ganesh. So this tradition of honoring Ganesh at the beginning is enlivening and honoring that part of your physiology, which represents Ganesh, and that is a very real, even physiological reality. So here we have different aspects of the devatas and even the 10 avatars and how they correspond. Here is Varaha, for example. Of course, I moved the Varaha upside down like that, so it looks like that part of the brain. All of the 10 avatars are there. This is Parashuram. Ram is there. And for example, now that we come to Ramayana, we all know the special value of the arrow and the bow of Ram. And in our physiology, it corresponds to the vertebral column and the spinal cord. And the arrows of Ram are the actual nerves that go out from the spinal cord. And all of these nerves has a feedback loop, which means it sends a message, but then it receives a message back telling it what has happened. And that is what is said in the Ramayana, that when Ram would send an arrow, the arrow would go hit the target and come back to his quiver. It goes back. That is the feedback from whatever has happened before, and therefore every one of us has the bow of Ram within us. It's better we have to learn how to use it properly, and then we are Ram. We are experiencing that value, which is really very real. So Hanuman represents the hormonal system. Hanuman that can become so small, like the hormones, they are tiny, but can become very big because they are huge and they go throughout the body. He can burn the city. The hormones can activate your digestive system, activate the fire within you. And so all of these are real and part of our physiology. This is even the Buddha avatar. Even Kalki, we can foresee what it is. There is a place in the brain called the hippocampus, which hippocampus means it looks like a horse, and Kalki is said to come on a horse, and that it will bring all memory back to everyone, that we are absolute, we are totality. And in the hippocampus in the brain, it's the place where we have memory that is being installed. So like that, Brahma also depends on seeing from every side, not 4 heads, so there are the 4 lobes of the brain. And like that, we can look at all expressions of the physiology as being truly a replica. I put this Ayurveda, but it will be for another talk. So it's a joy to be with you. I wanted just to give you a feeling, an understanding, how we truly are the Veda and how the Veda is the blueprint of human body and the blueprint of creation on all levels: DNA, the cells, the human body. We truly are the Veda, and therefore we have a very precious human nervous system that allows us to experience transcendental consciousness through transcendental meditation, where we transcend and enliven our own physiology. And research has shown that when we transcend together and we experience that, we enliven the field of consciousness, that ocean that we talked about, in the whole society, and that's how we can create peace and harmony. And there are 116 research studies that show that when a small group of people practice transcendental meditation together, and its advanced technique as brought to light by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, then there is a change in the behavior in society. There is decrease in crime, decrease in accidents of the road, even decrease in hospital admission, decrease in infant mortality. So by enlivening the Veda within us, enlivening consciousness within us, we improve our mind and body, and also together we can change society and create truly enlightenment for the individual, enlightenment, Ram Raj, for our dear world. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Nader. We are extremely grateful for the time and effort you've taken to share your expertise and perspective with us. Thank you. The moment we all have been waiting for has arrived. The official launch of the books Human Physiology, Expression of Veda and the Vedic Literature, and Ramayana in Human Physiology by Dr. Tony Nader. These books unveil the profound connection between human physiology and the wisdom of the Vedas, offering a transformative perspective on life, health, and consciousness. We request Dr. Tony Nader and our esteemed guests to formally unveil the books.
Good afternoon to everyone, and Jai Gurudev. My dear old friend, Dr. Nader, with whom I had spoken on Maharishi channel in the presence of Maharishi, it was a great honor to me. Well, they have put that seed in my mind as a neurologist and scientific brain. And that has been growing and growing. With the result, whatever is in the background of my mind, the subconscious, what Maharishi used to speak about the unified field and how the reverberation, he used to call it spandan hota hai, chetna. That was the thing which I could recall that kept on inside me. And with the result has grown into a state where, apart from neurology practice, I could start in Indian Academy of Neurology, which is an organization of about 4,000 neurologists from the world all over India, a section on contemplative neurology, first of its type in any of the neurological society in the world. And there I could start discussing about consciousness, meditation, and very often Maharishi's name would come up, how he started this thing, and Dr. Nader's name would also be there, how it was. With the result that I had to give certain examples in the common day life about all the details about consciousness. We, the neurologists, would always think consciousness is a byproduct of the brain functioning. Well, that is one. But what makes the brain function? That was my question. So there has to be an energy which makes all the cells in the body function. And that energy was that chetna, that consciousness, which is everywhere. To make that thing known to the people in the country and different, our medical colleagues also, neurological colleagues, I had to give certain examples, very simple. I'll give you that example of what, and that would make you understand also what Dr. Nader's work has been a wonderful work, actually. We have, right now you're hearing my voice through the speakers, audio system. There's electricity. There's one type of energy. apart from the three other different type of energy, quantum, that's electromagnetic, and also our quantum, electromagnetic, and gravitational energy. Apart from that, they all have source in our Chetna, in our consciousness. Everything has given from there. I used to give this example very clearly. Look at this energy is there. In your house, there's a fridge, refrigerator, which is making ice. Then you have a same energy producing a different form, microwave. In our hospital ICU, we have ventilators giving life through the energy, electricity. And then we have another energy, which is for the crematorium also. So, life and death, everything is based on the energy system. And the child which is born in the mother's womb is also developing using the energy, and that also energy is coming from the similar scenario. So that particular, and this is the same analogy, has our, I could, if I am permitted by Dr. Nader, to add is the same thing, giving a different name. This Adya Shakti, which is there, and the Adya Shakti, and that reverberation, that Chetna, that produces the pranav, the sound, the first sound, and after that the more and more ripples came, and the different functions, different structures came up. The point which I wanted to make everywhere was the same, which has been made. It's not the materialistic thing which produced the energy, it's the energy which produced the materialistic things. So in the brain, it is the energy which is producing brain to function, and there is small local environment that another function is, that's a local mind and local function. So important thing is, when we used to discuss with the Dr. Nader in 1998, it was there. At that time, he just came up with an idea. He said, Varmaji, Hanumanji, is it not a hormone, or is it not a neurotransmitter, which goes from everywhere it is present, and whenever we want, it can be present? I agree. I think that is a wonderful correction. A very good idea. And which is Pavan Putra, we call him, that everywhere it can be there. So, important point is that we have to think that physiology requires energy. And through the energy only, human functions occur. I'll give an example why energy is important, structure and energy-wise. Unfortunately, I had certain patients, as a being neurologist, we deal with a comatose patient, dying patient. In the MRI, just a few minutes before MRI was done, the brain was seen. And when it was taken out, patient had a cardiac arrest immediately. MRI was again saying, hope that everything is good in the brain. But then we find the brain same in the structure as it is in the dead person and the living person. So what was there which was missing? That's the energy. We call it pran or whatever it is. And we call it pran, vayu, and it's a vayu after all, but based on the pran. Pran makes of the body, brain functions so that the breathing apparatus functions. That's the energy which produces the pranayama, actually, for that matter. Now, another point which I would like to make here very clear is that the time has come, then we have, through Maharishi's blessings and Dr. Nader's tremendous effort, time has come when we have started finding that human beings as a manifestation and a conglomeration and a condensation of that energy system, as has been mentioned in Veda. The time has come that this sort of a spiritual knowledge has to be applied for the human Agni. Why? Because unless you treat the root causes there, as it was shown that the ocean, at the bottom of the ocean, that particular thing has to be treated. And for that, the superficial treatment by our medication on the ripples is not sufficient. So it's a wonderful day today that we are able to make this book available to all the people to understand the basic human physiology. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jai Gurudev. You all have heard about the Human Physiology book from Dr. Tony Nader. A lot of work has gone into that book with the blessings of Maharishi ji. And we are normal people, we don't understand the brain functioning and all that. But what we learn from all this thing is that there is a correlation. There is some kind of a correlation which was established by Dr. Tony Nader through his research. That correlation is how the physiology has been constructed and how the Vedic scripture have been constructed, how the Vedas and the Rishis and various sutras are there in that. So the correlation that Dr. Tony Nader found establishes that there is a perfect, our body is very perfect. If we maintain the body through the what we were born with the help of Ayurveda, that Devan Guruji will tell you how to maintain the perfect body. If we maintain the body perfectly, that means there is no flaws in that body. And the same thing happens with the Vedic scriptures. It's absolute structure is there, and all you have to do is understand what that is and how the physiology works. And I think the one of the very simple way that Maharishi ji tried to explain to people like us who are very simple, don't know anything about the physiology and brain functioning and all that, is it don't need to learn all that. The only thing you need to learn is how to get into the fourth state of consciousness using the transcendental meditation technique. You go there, you experience that, and then you know everything. The laws of nature, Dr. Nader was mentioning, as a very simple thing. The laws, there are two kinds of law. One is man-made law that based on our constitution, which we celebrated on 26th January, very simple. The laws are made, you have to follow this, you have to follow this, that, otherwise you get punished. The laws of nature are also there, and what Maharishi ji explained how these laws of nature function, what these laws of nature are, how to know about it is very simple. By practice of transcendental meditation, you get into the level of fourth state of consciousness, the transcendental level of consciousness, and then you are in tune with the laws of nature, and then you don't make any mistake. The same thing when you get into that fourth state of consciousness, you know about whole physiology is maintained, and this is the connection that the physiology and our Vedic scripture. We are very fortunate that Dr. Tony Nader, with the blessings of Maharishi ji, was able to brought down this structure for all of us. It's now open to the students of this generation to get more into deep into it, go do more research into this field, and try to understand how this research that Dr. Nader has done, how this can be used for the welfare of the mankind. If there is an organ of body which is connected with some Vedic scripture, how that Vedic scripture can help maintain the perfectness of that organ of the body. That is something that the more research needs to be done. A lot of students need to know about this research and that publishing of this book by Motilal, Mr. Jain, is very good idea so that the books can be made available to various schools and colleges, so the students can know about what is there in that book and how to take it further for the welfare of the society, for maintaining perfect health in the body. The another book, the Ramayana in Human Physiology, was written, where also the similar research was done, and with the blessings of Maharishi ji, we are establishing a university in Ayodhya called Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Ramayana University, and that it's almost done. This university probably start functioning in July this year. And this book of Maharaja, Dr. Tony Nader, is going to be a guidebook in that university for the students who want to do the further research in this field. This will be a guide for them. With the blessings of Maharishi ji, this research was done, but a lot more research needs to be done in this field to make it available for the society, as I said, for the welfare of the mankind. And that's the whole purpose of research. So any research that is done by any university is always for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the mankind. So with this help of this new research that Dr. Tony Nader has done, we will be our university in Ayodhya, which is the birthplace of Ram also, will be able to use this book as a guide for further research. I have also And during the Hyderabad course, when we had 10,000 assembly in Hyderabad, I had requested Dr. Tony Nader that I want him to guide our PhD students in that university. At least, he doesn't have a lot of time, so I requested him for guiding at least 2 students every year for the research purpose based on his research. So with his help, and I also suggested that all the expenses of those 2 students who do research under the guidance of Dr. Tony Nader, we will not charge them anything in the university, they will be free. So I hope these 2 books there are many students are here, Dr. Nader, from the university. I hope these 2 books will be helpful to our students, and maybe some of you will take this book up and do some further research in this field. Thank you very much.
Maharaja Raja Ramji, Dr. Tony Nader, and his better half Sita Rani. G.D. Bakshi ji, Major General, we have seen him every time on the TV, on a good debate. Dr. Varma ji, Ajay Prakash ji, Hema Bhabi, Ram and Lakshman, our Neil Peterson, and all of us, Louis, and everybody is there. People from all over the world and all the students. It's a great pleasure to inaugurate this. No, it's not inaugurate, actually, it had been inaugurated before also. It's the reversion. I have seen that time when Maharishi ji, our old Rishis like Patanjali, Charak, and Sushrut, when they were teaching the students, it was the same thing when Maharishi ji was teaching the students like Tony Nader in Holland. And I've seen it for a long time, sitting hours and hours. And we were also sitting there, my father, myself, and when he was teaching all about this. And then Tony Nader correlated with this, the human physiology. And now the Ramayana. As Prakash ji has said, that the university has already been established. So this will be a textbook for there. And the students will do PhD on this Ramayana from this book. So that will be a good for the students, for the Indian things. Tony Nader is doing a great work. I have seen in Holland, in all there, now just in a couple of days, they have met a couple of times in Pune, in Ayodhya, and we are meeting it today. And then he's going to Mahakumbh also. And so he's traveling, and then I have traveled with Dr. Tony Nader around the world with my father number of times to spread the knowledge of Ayurveda. So it's a great vision that Maharishi has chosen a very good person to take this knowledge to around the world. And I would like to say that from the Ayurvedic point of view, as in Gita it says, it's the Yoga, Yukta Harvyars, Yoga, it's all the Ahar and Bihar, which is the basic of body and the Ayurveda, and Tridosh and all the gunas. So this is the main thing which Maharishi has taken, Ayurveda, Yoga, and all the Vedas, Stapatya Ved, and all this हमारी जितने भी हमारे सारी संस्कृति हैं ये सबको महर्षि जी पूरे विश्व में लेकर गए. मेरा ये कहना है कि जो महर्षि जी ने योग, आयुर्वेद और भारतीय संस्कृति के लिए किया, मैं तो कहता हूँ कि शायद विवेकानंद जी से उन्होंने भी 100 गुना ज़्यादा किया. And it's a big thing that Maharishi has taken this knowledge around the world since late 50s and up to 2006. He was a great Rishi. It's like Patanjali, Sushrut, and our Charak. So I had fortunate to be with him for more than 20 years, seeing every year a couple of times in Holland, in America, in Silesburg, in Noida, in Maharishi Nagar. So this was a great opportunity to sit with a great saint and great Rishi. So with you first, I congratulate Tony Nader ji also and all the organization of Maharishi's movement. Ajay Prakash ji, who has doing a great work in Ayodhya, a great university. It is coming up very well. I will remember Anandji also, that Anandji was doing a great work for Maharishi Ayurveda and other things. So he has also done a great work, Anand Srivastavaji. It's a big use. With these two words, as I said, that I'm fortunate to be a blessing of Maharishi for a long time and with my father. So thank you. Jai Ayurveda, Jai Maharishi.
Dr. Tony Nader, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to be here. Privilege because I belong to Jabalpur. You know, the city where Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Gurudev was born. My parents were ardent practitioners and teachers of transcendental meditation, and they learned at his feet. So as a child, I've been exposed to these impressions. Jabalpur is a great city. You must go there. You must go there, yeah? You know, the sacred Narmada flows through Jabalpur, you know, and the Adi Shankaracharya meditated on the banks of the sacred Narmada river. And his meditations have still charged those waters. Water molecules carry memory, by the way. There's a lot of scientific work being done on that, right? They've charged that river with the power of those meditations, right? And it is from that tradition comes Gurudev, right? It is from that tradition that he comes. Adi Shankaracharya tried to take Hinduism back to the Vedas, back to Vedanta, right? That was his prime mission. And that mission was carried forth by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Let me tell you something very strange. And you all would not have heard of this earlier. You know, the CIA in the 1970s, late 60s, 1970s, was terribly worried that the KGB, the Soviet intelligence agency, is working on developing psychic powers, right? And they want to use it for mind control. They want to use it to influence people, twist their minds around if they have to. They want to use it for espionage. There is a project Gateway. For those of you who think that it's all spiritual mumbo-jumbo, let me tell you, there was a project Gateway enunciated, which has been declassified now, in which they looked for people who could project, you know, their astral entities out of the body. And then they were tasked, by the way, to visit certain Soviet nuclear submarine yards and, you know, come back and report what they had seen. It was called remote viewing, distant viewing, etc., etc. So when the CIA, you know, was worried about that the Soviets have taken a lead in psychic abilities, they said, we'll catch up like hell. We'll put a man on the moon first, so we'll get to these psychic energies first. So when they went around trying to understand what the hell is meditation, you know, the way we teach meditation was so full of mumbo-jumbo, you know, that, I mean, you can't use it for scientific testing. This man has there are, by the way, 112 different methods of meditation, you know, which are laid down. So now which one, how, etc., can you standardize this for scientific testing? You know who did it first? Maharishi Mahesh Yogi with Transcendental meditation. He gave us an easy to learn format, easily understandable, easily learnable and transmittable. You know, without Shaktipat and this and that and a lot of the other mumbo-jumbo, in a very scientific manner, in a very, very scientific manner. And the CIA jumped at it. Oh God, here is something that we can use. We can put it to scientific verification, experimentation. And not only the Americans, by the way, the Russians, the Japanese, the whole lot of scientific establishments all over the world started to investigate. And the first pioneer in this investigation was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. You see, a lot of us Indians will not accept a thing which is Indian. Huh? But if it comes to us from the West, then yes, this is now verified. You know, the amount of scientific testing that was unleashed was amazing. Amazing, you know. And it has given a totally altered many perspectives. Quantum mechanics and consciousness studies are all about what the hell is consciousness? How do I see the red in the red flower? That is the cutting edge of physics today, by the way. That is the cutting edge of physics today, consciousness studies. And 10,000 years ago, our Rishis were exactly on these consciousness studies. Their method was very simple, very empirical. I am conscious. I have no doubt about the fact that I am conscious. So if I'm conscious, if I want to know what consciousness is, let me go within. This is my laboratory. This is where I can do repeatable experiments with myself and come to certain conclusions. And the conclusions they came to were amazing for the depths of their insight. You know, the entire universe is consciousness. The entire universe is consciousness. See a cosmic ocean of consciousness, right? Multi-dimensional, all over, everywhere. And Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. That totality of consciousness, that infinitude of consciousness is Brahman, right? And then came the second major, insight of the Indic civilization. I am Atma Brahma. That consciousness outside, that vast ocean of consciousness is here. And there is a hologramic relationship between the Atman here and the Brahman there. They are one. Sounds amazing. Let me tell you what a hologram is. When my son was very small, he's sitting here, Aditya, I took him and my daughter to one of our research laboratories, military research laboratories in Dehradun. They were working on fiber optics and a lot of these stuff, and the holograms had come in, just come in. I'm talking of India, that is. They came in. Denis Gabor, 68, the Nobel Prize, much later after he had discovered it. So we wanted to see what the hell are holograms. So we went to that laboratory, and the scientists were very happy that, they had brought my children. So he showed us a hologram. It is of a statue of the Khajuraho, where that lady, very, very exquisite statue, she's writing a letter to her lover. You may have seen that statue somewhere. So they showed us that statue's image, a hologram of that statue, right? And, in a hologram goes all around that object and takes a 360 impression of it. That is why it is three-dimensional, right? It's like you take plastic clay and you have a statue. You put it around that plastic clay, open it, and you will get the 3D image of that thing. That is what a hologram does. So then he told me, he had that thing in that optical wedge, and he turned it this way and we saw this shoulder. He turned it this way, we saw this other shoulder. Then we saw the back, then he turned the front from a two-dimensional plate, right? With a laser light going through. Coherent laser light. Coherence, right? And he showed us all around 3D. Then he did an amazing thing. He took a cardboard and he covered half the hologram. It still produced the whole image. Then he took a bigger cardboard, he covered 3/4 of that hologram, it still gave the whole image. And he said, theoretically, every molecule of the hologram contains the whole image. Right? Have you got a better illustration of the relationship between Atman and Brahman? It is hologramic. It is hologramic. I am a soldier. Unlike our very qualified doctors here, well, I do have a doctorate degree, but that is from the military studies department, So, but one thing I'll tell you, I've seen more dead bodies, I've seen more battered corpses than I care to remember. My task in Kishtwar, Rajouri, Punch was to eliminate all the top terrorists. So I used to go around with their photographs in my pocket, and I used to tell the boys, when are you getting me this guy? He's lived along for too long, right? And management by objectives. So he would say, sir, I'll take 6 months. I said, note that. 6 months later, I'll come to see where is the dead body of this big terrorist who has killed so many people, so many raped, so many women, murdered so many children. We want him dead, right? And then they would tell me, sir, we got him. I said, he said, you don't bury him. I'm coming there. So I'd reach at night, and there that bloodied body would be lying, and I'd take his face and hold the photograph, and then you hold the torch. So I have dealt with dead bodies, perhaps more than most doctors. Perhaps more than more doctors. And when you were looking at the dead body, he was saying the brain of a dead man and a living man is exactly the same. There's no change. So what has left? What has left? So, as a soldier you are, sometimes that curiosity gets you. This man was just, firing at us, this thing. Now he's stark stone dead. The flies are buzzing in his mouth. Dharma kshetre, kuru kshetre. Right? The field of battle is the field of dharma. We all talk philosophy. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It does not die with the death of the body. Yeah? Come on to the battlefield, let's see. Huh? Let's see. Let's see if you are scared or you are not scared. Because you are facing that final test. Is it really true? Will I live beyond the body? And having stared death multiple times in the face, I can tell you it is true. It is true. I've seen that death in the face. Not once, but many times, right? And one of the things about the Veda that really struck me was about the 9th mandala of the Rig Veda, Soma Sukta. Soma Sukta. What was Soma? When you meditate, and all of you who've done transcendental meditation have had experiences of euphoria, bliss, high energy, grandiosity, right? You get those experiences. And then if you keep doing it, you will get into states of bliss and ultimately the states of ecstasy, ananda, sat chit ananda. The totality of Brahman is sat chit ananda, right? It's truth. There's nothing more real than that experience. Sat chit, it is conscious. I've not gone into a comatose state. I'm conscious, more conscious than I ever was or I have ever felt. And then there is ananda. I haven't felt the first two. But I could do meditations for about 7 hours non-stop, especially with my Diksha Guru who was in the forest in Maharashtra. We just used to go to the forest and meditate the whole day in my annual leaves. Because 2 months you get. 2 months you get. You can grow your hair, become a hippie, or the army doesn't care, as long as you come back. As long as you come back to fight. I had an experience of absolute ecstasy. And I'd finished my meditation. I was walking in the forest. There was a dry nala bed, and there were trees on both sides. So it formed a tunnel of vegetation. It was early morning, about 6:37. We used to start meditation at 3 or 4. So we were walking through the forest, and suddenly there was a tree with a number of white flowers. And on each of those white flowers, there were about 10 honeybees. The whole tree was humming as if with those bees. The purest sound of Om, Pranab, is by the bees. You can't hear a purer sound of Om. You want to really hear the sound of Om, just hear the bees. Right? And a lot of mystics have gotten their, what shall we call, peak experience because of the sound of the bees. And that's what I felt. That's what I felt. I mean, ecstasy beyond any measure. Ecstasy beyond any measure. I felt that Soma. When I asked my teacher, what was it? He said it was Soma. He said it was Soma. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. It was Soma. So that set me thinking, what exactly? Was it a psychotropic plant? The German R. Gordon Wasson says it was a psychotropic mushroom, Amanita muscaria. That is the botanical name. Somebody said no, it was an ephedra plant. There was a third view from the Indian scientists. They said no, it was a lata, som lata. Som is a lata. So I asked my guru, and he said, well, that's fine. It is endogenous. It is not exogenous. It doesn't have to come from outside the body. When you meditate, when you silence the language component of the mind, right, a resonance is set up in your ventricles because of the meditation, because of the mantric sound that you are chanting, repeating. It echoes and re-echoes, it reverberates. And then you have the pineal gland, you have the other glands. The tropic hormones start flowing. And what are those tropic hormones? Amongst them, not the tropic hormones, neurotransmitters first. Tropic hormones come next. Neurotransmitters trigger the tropic hormones. So the neurotransmitters that flow, one of them is endorphins. Between hormones and neurotransmitters, big endorphins. Endorphins are the endogenous morphine. When you get shot up in the battlefield, how do soldiers bear that pain? As a defense mechanism, the brain starts secreting endorphins just before death experience or this thing, and it gives you a euphoria and a high. You can either feel pain or you can feel ecstasy. You can't feel them both. So the way that endogenous morphine works is by the flow of these endorphins, neurotransmitters. They, by the way, as recorded in the literature, give you euphoria, high, ecstasy. They enhance creativity. They take away fear and they take away pain. Therefore, Soma comes from within. Soma comes from within. It's not some plant that you have taken. There may be plant equivalents outside, no, because alkaloids, etc., the same thing may be there outside in nature. Whatever is here is everywhere, and what is not here is nowhere. That is what is the central message of Dr. Tony Nader, right? So there are correspondences outside, correspondences within, but the simple fact is that when you meditate, you secrete endorphins, and there is one more neurotransmitters that you secrete, dimethyltryptamine, DMT, God molecule. It is called the God molecule, and just the shamans in South America, they take a root called ayahuasca. You must have heard of this. And that gives you the same kind of mystic insights, you see, that the DMT in the brain gives you. And once again, when you are dying, and a lot of my profession has to do with death and dying, you see. So the dimethyltryptamine molecules also are secreted like hell in mammals that are being given an induced heart attack. You can measure the quantity of the secretion. I'm not talking in theory, I'm talking scientific facts. So my view of the Veda, my focus was on the Soma, right? When I read Dr. Tony Nader's book, I was amazed. And I was telling my son, this book needs to be all over. Because the insight that he has given into the Vedas, blessings of Gurudev, is phenomenal. I have been doing Vedic studies now almost for 50 years. By the way, when I was posted in Kishtwar, there is a river called Marudh river. So I was quite curious about the etymology of the name. And they said it is the Marudh Vridha, mentioned in the Rig Veda, the Nadi Sukta, right? And the Atharva Veda was received on the banks of the Marudh Vridha river, one of the most sacred rivers up there in Kashmir, close to Amarnath, right? And we were carrying out counter-terrorist operations there, So, that is this thing. But I was blessed to be in that land. And the Pipalad Shaka of the Atharva Veda was received in that place. In my military journeys around the Himalayas, I've been able to go to a lot of these places that you would otherwise not see. You would otherwise not see or even hear of, right? So what I'm trying to say is that we need more of this kind of research. We owe you a civilizational debt of gratitude, Dr. Nader, for bringing coal back to Newcastle. You know? Because we need it. We haven't done that kind of... our medical colleges should be doing this. Our technical institutes should be working full-time on this. Traditional knowledge systems. Traditional knowledge systems. And we have to understand we are heirs to a fortune which is absolutely unprecedented. It's one of the earliest civilizations on the earth. And by the way, to those who may like to contest that claim, let me tell you, Birhana in Haryana is where the Saraswati used to flow, has been carbon dated to 9,500 years. 9,000. Radiocarbon dated. So I'm not talking of, Jyotish or something else. I'm talking of radiocarbon dating. That's exactly how old we are and counting. That's how old the Vedas are and counting. But there is something timeless in that earliest consciousness studies. I'd like to end with the first verse of the Rig Veda. Agni mile purohitam yagyasya deva ritvijam hotaram ratnadhatamam. Beautiful, beautiful. His verse. He has cited this verse. And let me just take a minute more with the permission of the organizing committee. A minute more. The way this verse expands is exactly the way when you and I, there is a single fertilized egg cell, right? And it starts to multiply. The single cell becomes 2, that becomes 4, that becomes 8. And there are day-by-day progressions that Dr. Tony Nader has listed. And if you curiously study the metrical basis of the Veda, of the first shloka, 2, 4, 8, it's going into 8, 8, 8. That is exactly the thing. The mathematical basis of the Veda is not just, it is coincidental. It looks like that, this looks like that. So, that's one way of looking at it. Sir, there is a lot of work being done in what is called the Fibonacci series. And which, incidentally, Fibonacci got it from the Muslims got it from India, and the Arab traders took it to Europe. So it became Fibonacci series. It is the Virahanka series, which is the basis of the prosody of the Vedas. Understand? It is mathematical. It's mathematical precisely. If you see the structure of prosody, they have analyzed this using the Fibonacci series. So, once again, I'd like to deeply thank Dr. Tony Nader. I'd like to thank Motilal Banarsidas for getting it to us. And I would like to tell our academics to kindly take it up on almost a war footing, because before the Pakistani ISI does it to us.